One of the things that's been really interesting to me as I've progressed more and more in the place of healing and wholeness, you kind of think, well, you know, this information, these ideas that we're presenting have been so powerful in my life in coming out of real brokenness that you begin to kind of get a sense of, well, this is just for people that have had real brokenness in their lives. And it is very powerful in that place. But I find that the whole idea of idols and of misperceptions and all of those things hold true every bit as much in people whose lives haven't had that severe brokenness, and that I still find continually that the Lord is working something in me that doesn't have to do with real severe brokenness. It's just kind of the dailiness of life. It reminds me of these two pieces of cloth. They look to be totally different. But if you look carefully, they're both the same pattern. Tammy, do you want to pull that one out? They just have different colors. It's the same pattern. You see that? And that's how it is. Satan doesn't know anything new. Okay? With some people, he uses just incredible, severe, emotional, physical trauma to establish some lies, some victim mentalities, some automatic responses. In other people, there may be just simply a fairly calm, ordered existence. And yet you find those same lies and victim mentalities established. They somehow have not had the events and circumstances they could tie to that have brought that about. And so a lot of times that gives almost extra power because, well, how come I'm having this trouble when I haven't had any of these really bad things happen to me? But Satan knows with each one of us what it takes. He knows with each one of us what will be effective in establishing lies, in attaching his agenda. And the whole focus that we have on getting fixed is a focus that if we were able to somehow go, aha, abracadabra, and God would wave his magic wand and we would be fixed, the process of what God is doing in us would be circumvented. There's a story told of a man who had captured he'd actually found an emperor moth cocoon. An emperor moth is just this wonderfully beautiful insect, and he was ecstatic at the idea that he would actually see it emerge from the cocoon. He kept it for more than a year, or nearly a year, in his office, and finally one day he realized that the moth was actually going to emerge from the cocoon. And he watched it for hours as the little tiny opening, and it began to squeeze its way out of that opening, and it got part way out, and then it seemed that it just got to a place and it was just stuck, and it struggled and it pushed and it tried, and it couldn't get past. He watched it for another hour, and then he thought, well, maybe being inside there wasn't the moisture, and it probably dried up. It didn't have the elasticity that it needed. And so what he did was he took his scissors and just put a little tiny snip in the hole. And sure enough, within a very short time, the moth was able to emerge. But its wings were still shriveled and wrinkled and didn't work. And he waited for the equivalent of moth blood to course through those wings and to just bring forth that great beauty and to watch it fly away. But it never happened. And he began to understand that it was in that process of struggling and squeezing and going through that opening that just seemed too narrow, that the fluids were pressed into the wings and made it so that the moth in all of its beauty was able to fly. And in his sympathy, in his impatience, what he actually did was make it so that the moth never could be what God intended and planned for it to be. And we're like that. We're like that in our own lives, and we're like that as God calls us into ministry in other lives. We see someone in great pain. We see someone in great distress, in great trouble, and we want to fix it. We want to relieve the pain. And so often, I think we can probably feel God's tears as he says, but that was necessary. And what I really wanted was I wanted you partnered together with me to pray into that person the grace, the vision to walk on into wholeness. It's interesting that one of the words translated trouble is a word that means straightness, narrow. It also has the idea of a pebble in your shoe, or an opponent, an enemy. So we looked at trouble last night as being unethical, immoral activity committed against someone. This is some kind of act of evil that's committed against someone. But just the daily stress and distress of life. Why are you distressed by that circumstance? Yesterday I got away a little bit, about 5 minutes late to go and have Mikey do my hair. And I really wanted to be on time because I didn't want to mess up her schedule, and so I thought, well, I could just, go a little bit faster. You can make up 5 minutes, just 70 miles an hour instead of 65. And the Lord just said, you don't go faster than the speed limit. And I could sense my stress level rising. And God said, why are you distressed? Well, I could be late. And I was late once before. And, Mikey's on a schedule, and you don't come in 5 or 10 minutes late. And the Lord said, why are you distressed? I said, well, because I'm going to be late. And if you're late, then what? And I had this picture of the last time that I was late, and I came in, and Mikey was sitting there on her stool, and she was praying. And she, maybe she was mad at me, I don't know, but see, I can imagine that underneath she was really that Arlene, okay? I don't know what Mikey's attitude was, but what I saw her praying. And God brought that picture back to me again. And he said to me, I don't want you to be distressed. And I said, oh. Because you see, there may be something that God wanted to do in Mikey. It may be that Mikey didn't let him do it, and so when I got there, she was really furious with me. But that still doesn't mean that I should be distressed. It doesn't mean that I'm careless with Mikey's time. It doesn't mean that I go, oh, well, I'll get there whenever I get there. Mikey can just pray till I get there. Okay, there's a real balance point there. But there's a place where just the dailiness of life, it's distressing. And there are places where the dailiness of life kicks into something else. Because you see, there's that place in me that if Mikey had been angry with me, and it really was my fault, and I really did mess up her schedule, that could I disentangle from one, that yes, I need to take responsibility for having been late, but two, no, I don't have to take the load of garbage that she would want to put on me. Because God may have, in that kind of a situation, something that he wants to do in Mikey's heart. Turned out, God's already done it in Mikey's heart, so I didn't have to worry. I got there, and the lady, she was just finishing up, the lady that was before me. And just that graciousness is such a balm to my spirit, that whenever someone has a perfect right to be angry with me and isn't, that's such a gift. Mm-hmm. It's such a wondrous gift. And as we partner together with God, what happens is that more and more in the situations of life, we're alert, we're watching, we're asking God, not why is this happening to me, but God, what's in this for you? How can I partner together with you in bringing about the highest good in another person's life? And that's what God is interested in. That's what God wants to work in each one of us. We have to pay attention to the inner chatter going on inside of our heads. And we have to let God into that inner chatter so that He can ask why is that bothering you? And keep asking that until we get past the superficial. Why is that bothering you? Because Mikey might be angry with me. And why does that bother you? Well, she has a right to be angry with me if I'm late. And why does that bother you? Because then she might not like me anymore. See, she maybe will find out. Maybe I'm not really okay. Maybe it's just an illusion, a house of cards that's going to tumble. And that's the bottom line, where God says, come and run to me, and I'll be your high tower. It could be. It could be that Mikey just gets, she just says, Arlene, that's just too many times. I don't want you coming back anymore. You're just messing up my schedule. Okay? And there are hairdressers who might do that. You know, it costs them money. If I come 10 minutes late, and so then they have 10 minutes for the next customer to wait who doesn't want to wait, then that customer gets mad, and you know, and so there's that place where God says, but I'm your refuge. I'm your strong tower. So that in the midst of any kind of distress, you don't have to take on the garbage. You can take on responsibility, but you don't have to take on the garbage. And let me work and pray my work into that person's heart, because their responses come out of their own pain. So that's what God's about in this whole business of partnering together with Him to work through in our own hearts, not just so we'll be fixed, not just so that we're not an embarrassment to God, but so that our wings are fully spread and we're able to soar. And as we soar and other people see the beauty that God has placed in us, they don't look at us, they look at God and say, wow. May God bless us.